Just type in the chat there a yes. Excellent.
Okay.
Fantastic. So we're going to get started shortly, but welcome to so many people that are on this webinar. What an amazing response we've had.
We've got people from all over the place.
Look.
Wow, we've got London, Wellington, Perth.
Los Angeles.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah, must be super early in London.
Yeah, it's the middle of the night, I think. Sorry for you guys in Europe. That was the best time for people in Asia, Australia, and the US. So I'm sorry you missed out in London. Thank you so much for those who are joining from London. I think it's about 2:00 in the morning right now.
It is. We've also got Ottawa, Manila. There's all over.
Fantastic. We've had a huge response. Yeah.
Massive response. Canada as well. Can't forget Canada.
Yeah. So Venezuela. Hey.
Excellent. Now, this webinar is soon to be an online course and has come about because we sent out a survey recently and we had a massive response to the survey with some amazing topics that came.
We had some really good ideas, really, really good ideas. So, yeah.
It seems that online training in Excel is super popular at the moment, which is how this webinar came about. Infographics in Excel was one of the most popular topics as well. Danielle, tell us, infographics is a little out of the norm, especially for a financial modeler. Tell us what
I know.
Is.
What the heck? I mean, I'm a modeler. I'm a finance person. So my interest in infographics has been a little bit kind of different because what I'm finding is that people are we as finance people are really just concerned with the numbers and the accuracy of the numbers, and we're often not very good at the visuals. And that's something that I found it wasn't something that came naturally to me, was doing the visualization. So something that I spent a lot of time on, trying to train my brain. And that's some of the things I'm going to go through with you today, is just some of the perception things that we don't always think about, how to make things look good in Excel. So that's some of the stuff that we'll be talking about today. I imagine a lot of you guys have got finance backgrounds. I think that there's quite a few analysts and modelers and Excel people. So this is for you.
Excellent. Now, I know that you've been working hard on this webinar and also on the online course as well that's going to lead on from this webinar. Can you tell us how this is going to work?
So this webinar is to launch this brand new online course which I've been working on. Now, if you've attended some of my online training in the past, you'll know that it's all pre-recorded, it's all very swish, and we were in Fox Studios and we hired out the studio for the day, and it's all very well edited kind of videos and it's all pre-recorded. We're going to do a little bit differently now. We're trying something a little bit new, more sort of webinar style. So it'll be a little bit more like this. You'll still be able to see the screen and see some PowerPoints, but we're going to run it as a series of webinars. So today is just the intro, just to kind of give you a feel for what it's about. If you decide then to sign up after today's webinar, you will get access to the series of the next 4 weeks of webinars. They'll be every Thursday at 10 o'clock. So today's is at 11, but from the next 4 weeks, they'll be at 10 o'clock in the morning for an hour. So you'll be able to log on to there, and they will be available as recordings, of course, if you can't make the live webinar. And then at the end, there'll be a Q&A one as well. So it'll be 5 webinars and then also today, so 6 webinars in total. So that will be the online course on infographics in Excel. So I'm really excited to launch that next week.
Excellent. I'm a little bit excited as well. As soon as the idea came through about the infographics, I was like, yeah.
I know, you were like, we've got to do that. We've got to do it. Yeah. Great
definitely.
Idea.
Now, tell us, you mentioned to me earlier, and I was a little bit excited about this as well, that you're also going to have a pre-launch special too.
Yeah. So the course is going to be $220 for the full course. Normally, we're doing for the first. Well, we were going to say 10 people, but seeing as we've got so many people, we're going to do the first 20 people, I think. Is that all right, Susan? Can we make it 20? Is that all right?
I think you're going to have to with the response on this webinar.
All right.
Huge.
Okay, so for the first 20 people that sign up today, I don't imagine it'll last much longer than today, they'll get it for half price. So it's 110 Australian dollars for the full course. So if you're in Australia, that will include GST. So it's in Australian dollars, but it will convert. Okay.
Fantastic. And what I'll do is I'll pop the link in the chat as well.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to sign up during the webinar, they can certainly go ahead and do that.
Of course. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get stuck into it. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. So let's go share your desktop. So let me know if you can see everything okay. So okay, so you should be able to see my slides now, I think. Is that right? Everybody okay? Okay, so here's what we're going to be talking about today is infographics in Excel. So using infographics is just so popular nowadays, but being able to do it in Excel is what we're really going to be talking about. So we'll do a bit of an overview of a number of different topics today. We'll be talking about what makes a good infographic, so a little bit of graphic design in there, a little bit on how to use Excel, so using how to make those visuals and to link them through to Excel. Of course, there's lots of other pieces of software and some great online resources that you can use, and I'll give you lots and lots of tips of some websites that you can use. Most of it is free. I'll give you some tips on how to find images and that sort of thing, and how to not fall foul of royalty issues. We'll talk about that and how to include those in your Excel workbook. And then, of course, the advantage of doing it in Excel is so that it's going to be dynamic and you'll be able to make changes. So as your data changes, your visuals and your text and your numbers will automatically change as well. So we'll have a bit of a look at that, a little bit about data visualization as well as principles of visual perception. So that's what we're going to be covering today. So let's get stuck into it. So what is an infographic? So basically, it's a graphical representation of the data. I mean, as analysts, we have a huge amount of information available to us, far more information than ever was available before. So being able to graphically represent that. We've been doing it for a really long time in charts in Excel, but being able to make it more interesting and appealing to a wider audience. Basically, the idea of an infographic is that we take data from the world around us, we record it, we turn it into information, and then we interpret it. And of course, that's the fun part, is turning it into symbols, visuals, graphics, so that we can communicate that to a wider audience. So this is pretty much what an infographic might look like. You can see it's very appealing. There's nice colors. It's got lots of pictures as well as a lot of info. So info is important. It's very important to have lots of information. You should always, seek to inform people. People should feel smarter when they've looked at your infographic, but it should also be appealing and eye-catching. So that's what an infographic might look like. So is an infographic the same as a dashboard? I think a lot of people get a little bit confused by the difference between an infographic and a dashboard. They're not the same thing, although when we're building them in Excel, I know quite a few of you might have done my data analysis and dashboards reporting in Excel workshop that we run in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. And we spend a lot of time building beautiful dashboards and linking them through. And a lot of the concepts that we're going to be covering in this course are exactly the same. The way that you pull through the data, the way that you analyze it, you might be using pivot tables or you might be using charts. So the technical side of things is very, very similar when you're creating a dashboard, but in terms of what it actually looks like at the end, is just a little bit different. So that's an example of a dashboard. So it's nicely laid out, it's very informative, but it's more kind of data-based. It's more sort of info-based. Whereas if we go back to the infographic, you can see it's just a little bit more eye-catching. There's more art involved. There's more graphic design, and it's more about the visual. So an infographic is more visual than a dashboard. So again, there's the dashboard. So there's and that's an example of an infographic all about infographics. My gosh, and it's even moving. It's got some funky stuff that even moves. So you can see it's got lots and lots of visuals as well as lots of information as well. So very eye-catching and very pleasing to the eye. Whereas with dashboards, it's more about the information and the data. So is it the same as data visualization? So again, data visualization is really an overarching, an umbrella term that covers dashboards and it covers infographics. So this scale is actually really interesting. I thought you might find this useful. So data visualization is everything. Infographics is kind of in the middle here. So dashboards sit under business visualization. It's more functional. It's more statistical, and it's more about the data. Over on the other end of the spectrum, there's data art. There's lots of amazing, data artists out there, journalists, people that take information and make it look pretty, whereas infographics sit somewhere in between. So just a bit of a definition of where infographics sit in relation to other kinds of information. So why are they so popular nowadays? I mean, infographics are nothing new. They've been around for a really long time, but they've just become really, really popular in social media, certainly. They're so shareable. They're so easily, they're easily digestible information, and that's made them really, really popular in recent times. So just the fact that there's so much more visual information out there, we just see so much more. So it's more about the pictures and it's more about the data. Being able to consume that data quickly and easily has led to the popularity of infographics recently. So we actually receive 5 times as much information in a day or on a daily basis as we did 30 years ago. We're bombarded with so much information, so much data. There's just so much to consume nowadays, and it's all vying for our attention. And not only do we have so much data available to us, we're actually accessing it in so many different ways. We've all got multiple screens possibly going on at the same time. And if we want to get our viewers' attention, we need to make our piece of information or our point or the message that we want to portray, we need to make it as appealing as possible. So to compete with all of this sort of stuff that's going on. So this is why infographics have become so popular, because they just make it very, very easily for people to grasp concepts and to grasp information quickly and easily. So they're successful at countering information overload because we don't like to read, we like pictures. It's much, much easier to understand a concept in a picture rather than having to read text. We want it instantly. If it doesn't sort of jump straight off the page at us, we kind of lose interest. And also the visuals or pictures are just so much more engaging. Have I lost you yet? Have you all logged off? Are you completely overloaded and overstimulated by all those images and graphics? Have I got your attention? I sometimes wonder whether the increase of visual information is dumbing us down. I think that we just need to have we have so much going on that we lose our attention. A lot of the times I think our attention span is a bit like a goldfish. I think it's a problem. I think it's a social issue, not one that we're going to to tackle here, but just something to be aware of is that you need to make your infographic eye-catching, quick, and easy to counter that sort of information overload that people have got nowadays. So that's enough of that. I just wanted to talk to you now about the process, or to take you through the process for creating an infographic. What I'm going to be talking about with you today on this webinar is just a really quick overview of the kind of things that we're going to be talking about in the full online training course that I'm launching. So the process that we'll actually go through on the course, we'll actually go through from start to finish and build our own infographic. We're going to go through each of these steps in quite a bit of detail. You guys are going to build your own infographic. You will submit it. So we'll review it. If you get stuck, we'll have a look at it. We'll help you with technical issues, and we're going to, and you'll be able to, get feedback on the infographic that you're creating. So let's go through the process today about how you can create an infographic. So you start out, usually we start with a story. So you might start with your data, or you might have a hypothesis or a theory. I mean, you might say, hey, we've got one that I'm going to look at in a minute on aging population. So you might have a theory that, hey, our population is aging in the world, and I want to educate people about that. I mean, we're pretty sure that that's accurate. We all know that the population is aging, but this is the theory, or this is the message that we want to get across. So we start with our story. Then we find our data. We analyze the data. It might be information in your company, then this might be quite a lot of work, or it might be fairly straightforward. So does the data support your theory? Sort of flesh out what the message is, what you're trying to get across, and then decide on the type of infographic that you want to show that message. So we'll talk in a minute about whether your infographic is informative. Often they're just sort of informational infographics. They might be for the purpose of comparison. They might be in the form of wanting people to take action. They might be a timeline, or, there's a lot of different types of infographics that you might show. So each of those will be you need to decide on what that's going to be. And then once you've decided on the format or the shape of your infographic, you then need to decide on the images. We'll talk in a minute about how to get those images, where to get them, and how to include those in your Excel workbook. And then lastly is creating the design. And I know that might seem straightforward. That's the bit I find the most difficult. So thinking about the colors, what looks good with what, all of that stuff does not come naturally to an analyst like me. And there's lots and lots of hacks and tricks and things that I'll show you, of ways of, you can use templates, that will make, I'm complete. I've got no idea what color looks good with what. So I'm a master at getting, using other people's work, using other kind of templates. Lots and lots of ways of making your visuals look good and look appealing, and of course making sure that the data is accurate behind them. I'm good at that. I'm good at the data. I'm good at the analysis, but actually creating the design can be tricky. And lastly, get it out there. We often, and the same goes with our financial models, by the way, we often don't communicate the output of our financial model very well. We spend so much time on the analysis and making sure that our calculations are correct, that our data is right. But we actually need to, once we've got it, we've finished with our visuals, is actually share it, get it out there, and make sure that people can consume our data easily. So different types of infographics. So you might decide that your infographic might just be research. It might be in the format of a timeline. You might be taking people through a process, how to do this, how to do that. Often it's just an information summary. It's just a whole lot of information about a particular topic. In fact, the examples that I'm going to show you in a minute in Excel are typically just that. Okay, here's our topic, and here's a lot of information about it. It might be geographic. Often it is. We create maps, and we just show comparisons of different geography or different things going on in different areas. We often use it for comparing and contrast, pros and cons, that sort of thing. It might be hierarchical, and it also might be word clouds. Word clouds are a great way of analyzing qualitative information, for example. So I'll just take you through now some of the online resources. So there's so much information out there. I'm just going to take you through some of my favorites, the ones that I think are the most useful. Pictochart is great. Canva's great these are for, creating also, laying out images or for getting images or editing images. You can use some of these. Wordle is good for word clouds. I use Canva quite a lot actually for, I know Susan likes Canva as well, just for, getting data and moving it around and creating, putting different images together. This is not Excel. This is just about getting your images. Once you've got those right, you can then insert them into Excel. Just a couple more that you might find useful. I'll make this available. I'll just create a list of these and make this publicly available on the bottom of this webinar so that you'll be able to access this. Lastly, actually, there's the smallman.com. So I'm going to use some of these are in Excel. So there's some amazing online, freely available Excel templates. So I'm going to use some of these. The Small Man was actually written by a friend of mine, Marcus Small. He's actually based in Brisbane, and he's created an amazing website with lots and lots of free downloadable Excel templates, and I'm going to use a couple of his today. If you are in Brisbane by any chance, he is actually going to be the speaker for our next Brisbane meetup. We've got modelers meetups happening all over the world, and he is going to be showing us some heat maps in Brisbane at our next one. So if you're in Brisbane, you may get to meet him. So just a couple of other resources for finding images. So Vector Stock Icon Finder. These are more just about actually finding the images. So finding, if there are symbols or icons or, pictures that you might want to include in your Excel file. So a lot of them are free. Deposit photos. Thank you, Lance. That's a good one. I didn't include that. So there's tons and tons of them. Getty Images, of course. Google, you can just Google it, of course. Just be really, really careful when it comes to copyright. You cannot just Google, find an image and download it and use it in your Excel file. If you just do it in Excel and it's only used internally, you probably won't get caught. But don't do it. Just don't do it. I've heard of lots of examples of where people have done that, and then something becomes publicly available. They don't realize that image was not supposed to be used. I heard of one recently where the Getty Images then found that had been used online, and then sent them an invoice for, quite a hefty invoice, because it was something that was used for commercial purposes and it was used wrongly. So just be really, really careful about that, about use of images. I might just take you over to Google just for a moment and show you how to find. If you go to Google and just type in, if you wanted to find a picture of a heart, you wanted to show that you love something, you can click on images and you can find, a whole pile of images. You probably can just use one of those. It's a fairly simple image, but if you wanted something a bit fancier, you can find these here, but you can't just use them. Go into search tools, go into usage right, and you can change it here. So you can say label for reuse or label for reuse with modification, non-commercial, if you're a student or it's not going to be used for commercial purposes. I just go with that one, reuse, and then you can grab stuff from there. So that's just a much safer way of finding images. So beware of that if you're just downloading images off the internet. So be careful of that. So just a couple of editing hacks. I'm going to take you through this in Excel in a moment. You can just use Paint. We often find it's just a really, really simple, the Painter, it's just one of the Microsoft products that comes with pretty much any Windows program, I think. You can go in and you can edit an image very easily. You can change the colors, crop, cut, lots and lots of tools that you can use there. Get colors, RGB and hex and RGB I'll talk about in a minute. So ways of actually finding and matching your colors. So I'll show you a couple of websites we can use for those to get your images looking really good. So we've talked about lots of different tools that you can use for creating infographics, but using Excel, you don't sort of naturally gravitate towards Excel when you think of pictures, when you think of images. So using Excel is not necessarily, the best tool for something like this. There are limitations when you're using Excel. Excel can pretty much do anything you want it to, but it can be tricky. It can be time consuming doing in Excel. Most of the things that you see in infographics, you can do in Excel. They just take a little bit of time they can be quite fiddly to create those in Excel. The advantage, of course, of doing them in Excel, all of the graphic designers, all of the fantastic infographics that you see, most of them are created using Adobe Illustrator by really well-skilled, really well-qualified graphic designers, and they look amazing. The problem with those, of course, is that they're not editable. If you want to change the data in them, you're going to have to go back to the graphic designer and ask them to change it and, edit it, and, it's not easily changeable. So the advantage, of course, of using Excel is that you can just go in and change it yourself. So let's have a look at a couple of examples of infographics that have been done using Excel. So let's have a look at this one. This is one from thesmallman.com. So you can have a look at these and download them very easily. So this is something that's just been created in Excel. I'm just going to change my screen size so you can see it all in one, which looks fantastic. So if you wanted to, actually, I'll just put that back up there. It's probably better to look at it if I just do it in a print preview. You can see there that it fits nicely into one page, and you can then just print PDF, or you can grab it as a JPEG and you can just turn it into an image. But of course, this has been created in Excel, so you can just change it. So we can see here it's for the Formula One, and you can see here that it's just a text box. That's all it is. It's just an image that's been created. And then you can see behind here that it's been linked through to my data, which is behind. So you can see here all of the data is in here, and you can grab a copy of this and you can play around with it very, very easily. So if you wanted to change something, so let's say here 85,000 glasses of beer. So let's see how that changes. So if I change that and I say, well, actually, we've updated our data now, it's actually should be 90,000. So if I just change that there, and you can see there that if I click away there, you can see that's now changed to 90,000. So it's very, very easy to make changes to an infographic that's been created in Excel. So I'll just show you very quickly how that was, or how he did that. You just go Insert, go to text box. You can create your text box like that. Click on the outside of it, and then just the same as you would do in a chart using a dashboard, go into the formula bar, hit equals, go to here, and then you can just click on one of the pieces of information there, and that will link it through. And then, of course, you just format it and edit it like that. So that's one example. I just want to take you over to another example now of one for aging population, which looks really nice. I might just show it as a print preview as well, so you can see how it looks on the page. So it looks really attractive. It's quite a nice looking one. There's a couple of things about this one I'm not too keen on, but I'll just show you how that's been created. So that's just using a chart. So you can see all of the data behind it here. So you can see all the data's been entered in here, and that just links through to there. What we've got here is just a map behind, and then it's just some shapes, and linked it through to there. The thing I find about this one, I'm a little bit confused though about so Brazil. When I looked at this, I thought this related to Brazil, and I was a little bit confused as to why that was 22% and that was 25%. But when I look at the data behind, I can see that that's actually South America. So I really like the icons here. I think they look great. They look fantastic. So all of this data is automatically changing. So you change any of the data behind, it'll all just automatically update, which is beautiful. Just one last example. I really, really like this one. This is one of my favorites. It's just, a whole pile of images. If you click on the outside, you can actually see that it's just the whole thing is an image. This part here is just an image. You can see it moves. Just Control Z to put it back to where it was. Always a good idea if you move something to just Control Z it back so that in case it moves. So these are all just icons. So you can just grab those and you can see that's just images that goes through here. You can see here like 30 users are exposed. So if I were to go into the data behind here and I say, well, actually, I've updated it now to, it's actually 35. It used to be 30, but I want to update my infographic now to 35. So you can change that there and you can see that that's changed to 35. And you can even see the text under here, 35 Google display ad network. So you can see it's all completely automatically updated, which is really, really nice. See how that's actually got the text is a different color. That's actually really difficult to do in a text box, and it's actually been done with a series. If you look really carefully, it's actually been done with a series of different text boxes over the top. So quite a lot of work has gone into creating something like this. I would recommend thanks, Lance, for your question. This infographic is available in is from thesmallman.com as well. So you can they're all free to download. So you can go in and just poke around and see how they've been created, and get some ideas from there as well. I just wanted to show you quickly just a couple of things. So I quite like having a date on a with a dashboard. I guess it's probably just coming from my sort of analytical background. I like to know the time frame. I'd like to know when this was created. So I'd really like to have that at the top. So what this is a text box. It says, "Did you know?" But what I'm actually going to have is, I want it to say instead, I want it to have online usage, and then I'd like it to have the year. So what I'm going to do is just show you a little bit of a quick way of doing that. So you probably know that if I type equals today bracket into an Excel formula, and it'll come up with today's date. It's Bastille Day today. So that gives me, so whenever I open up this infographic, it's always going to give me today's date. And you can go in and say equals year around it. So I can convert that to, it's been formatted as a date. So I'll just change that to general, and it will show me the year today. So if I were to open this up next year, if I add plus 365, that will automatically tick over to 2017. So whenever I open up this file, it'll always give me the year. So I don't know if you guys have used ampersand before. So if you say A1 and then ampersand is absolutely critical for dashboards and for infographics, all of this stuff. If I say ampersand, it'll just string the two together. You can use concatenate as well, but ampersand I find really easy. It's just take two cells and put them together like that. So that's what I'd like to do here. I'd like to take the word online usage. I'm going to turn that into an Excel formula. So I'll say equals, inverted commas, space. So that's, I'm going to turn into, that's now, looks exactly the same, but it's actually a formula. So I've just put text inside the inverted commas. Then what I'm going to do is take my year, which is automatically calculating, highlight the whole thing, Control C, and escape out. So now it's sitting on, that formula is sitting on my clipboard. And then I'm going to go into this formula that I've created here, hit an ampersand, and then Control V. So that's going to put the whole thing into one single cell. Now I need it in a single cell so that I can then link that through to the title of my infographic. So that's what my formula looks like. It's just equals whatever your text is going to be, ampersand, and then whatever your data is. It might be a piece of, it might be a calculation. It might be a date, whatever it is, that's going to automatically update. So once I've got that working, I can then go to my title box at the top, just click on the outside of it like that, go to the formula bar, equals, and then link to there, A1, and hit enter. And that will link it through. Okay, it's linking it through, but it's not the right size. So I've just got to fiddle around with it and make it a little bit bigger. So this is where the fiddly part comes into it. So we'll go and I'll change it to Calibri, so that it's consistent. We'll talk about fonts. Be careful with fonts. Don't mix them up. Never use Comic Sans. We'll talk more about fonts in the online course. So be careful with fonts. Okay, so 40, that's probably a little bit big. We'll go with 48, I think. Okay, so that's nice. I'm just going to test that that's working. So I'll just go back to here, go into plus 365. we go, 2017, go back to here, and there we go. So it's changed to 2017, so that whenever I change it, it's going to automatically update so that you can see when it was printed or when the graphic was created. Just be careful with alignment. Make sure that, I know this stuff is really hard for us. Fonts have copyright. Yeah, be careful with fonts. We'll go more into fonts on the online course, but fonts is like a whole area. Yeah, I don't know about copyright as such, where the fonts, I'll look into that, and I'll address that. Yeah. Fonts is quite a graphic designers get really, really fussy about their fonts. And fonts can make or break an infographic, Calibri is always safe. We've used Calibri on this one, but using a different font can look really nice. But yeah, I'll look into whether there's copyrights on fonts. Yeah. I'd like to change. I think this black is looking a little bit boring. I mean, it's okay. So I can change it. I can go, yes, thanks, Neil. Using the Alt to snap to grid. So you can, I think that's what you meant, Neil. You can hit the Alt, and that will help with alignment when you're trying to align shapes. So what I'm going to do here is go into my colors, and I'm going to grab, I want it to be blue. I think that blue would look really nice on this one. Yeah, I think it's that blue. Is it? Yeah, I'm not really sure that's really the right, if I grab it from here. So Excel's pretty handy. It comes up. I'm not really sure that's the right blue. I'm not really sure about that. Especially when you're using a logo. If you want to match your color to a logo or color to an image, getting that exact color can be really, really tricky. I know I often sort of go, oh yeah, that's close enough. Yeah, that's fine. But it's important to actually get the color exactly right, because even though it might look good on your screen, when you put it up onto a data projector, it's going to look completely different. When you put it on somebody else's screen, it's going to look completely different. And when you print it out in color, it's going to look pretty different again. So make sure you get your colors exactly right. So I'm going to just show you an example here. If I go into more colors, you can actually choose the exact colors in Excel. So RGB, or that HSL. So RGB is probably the most common method. So go into there, and you can try and find it manually, which of course you're never going to be able to find it manually. So I'm just going to show you a bit of a quick trick. I'm sure there are easier ways of doing this. So I'm going to go in and copy this. I'm just going to find my painter. Where is my painter? I haven't used it. So I'm going to search for it in here. So going to paint. There we go. I'm going to grab my image, copy it, throw it onto my paint. There we go. So I could edit it in here if I wanted to. I'm just going to go into Save As now so that I can get to it. I'm just going to save it on the desktop, untitled. That'll do. There we go. I'm not going to use it for very long. So I'll save that onto there. Okay. Now I'm going to go into Google, and I need to know the color. I need to find out what color that is. I don't know exactly what color it is. So I'm going to just type in get color. There's lots and lots of online things. Just have a bit of a play around. This is one that I tend to use, is it comes up with the HTML color. So you can just, this one you actually don't need to sign up for. I hate it when you have to register for something, and you have to have an account and everything. So I'm just going to grab that one and hit Untitled. There we go. Show image. There we go. So it's come up in there, and I can just grab the color. So just wherever you put your mouse. Yeah, there we go. So that's come up with the color, and it's telling me that is the color code. Now I need it to be an RGB color code. So that isn't, you may be able to find one that will actually give you the RGB color code, but I haven't got one. So a little bit of a roundabout way of doing it. But what I'm going to do here is now I want to convert it. So that's actually what it's given me, is a hex color code. So what I need to do is to convert it from hex to RGB so that Excel will be able to find it. So that's one that I find is quite useful. So that just grab your hex code and then convert it to RGB. So grab that. Don't include the hash. Copy. Go to here. Go to your hex code and paste. Convert to RGB. Okay, so that's found it for me. So it's red 20, green 127, and blue is 190. So let's go back into our Excel. Oh yes, you can find it in Painter. Great. Well, even better. So you can get it straight out of Painter. But if you didn't, you can get it online like I just did. Okay. So go into there and go in and more colors. You can find your, what did I say that was now? I've completely forgotten. 20, 127, 190. So 20, 127 and 190. Yes, that was a bit the long way. So go, okay. There we go. And so you have it exactly the same. So just a couple of little tips and tricks that you can use for finding your colors, matching your colors in there. Okay. So just a couple of things that you can do in Excel. So let's go on now to what makes a good infographic. So making your infographic succinct. So making it short, punchy, get your message across quickly and easily. This one is an example. The message is that Japan has more charging points than gas stations. So that's great. It's very succinct though. It's not giving me a huge amount of information. It needs to be creative, something that, you know, it's got to be interesting. It's got to show good visualizations, you know, just having pictures, you know, this is interesting. It's visually good, but it's not actually giving me a lot of information. It should actually be giving me some data in here. So it should be well organized. It should be logical and have a good flow about it. It should be transparent. Not transparent as in the color. You should be able to see where the data came from. You should be able to check the color easily. It needs to be accurate. You need to be absolutely sure. Your data needs to be absolutely bulletproof. You need to be able to go back and check it if you wanted to. And it certainly should be relevant. Make sure that the images that you use are relevant to the data so that it's all cohesive. All infographics will have data. They'll have text and they'll have images. You know, that's all the different components of what you need to put into your infographic. So just a couple of points, just to finish off, just a couple of points on visual perception. So how many black dots do you see? There are not any black dots. So what you actually see or what your eyes perceive is not necessarily what's there. So we'll just talk about a couple of visual perception. So you need to be aware of visual perception when you're putting together an infographic. If you look here very, very carefully, there are 4 perfectly round circles. It may not look like that, but it is. Okay, so how many 5s? This is something that's useful for dashboards and also for infographics. Visualization should cause what is meaningful to stand out. If you probably found them all by now. Have you found the 5s? If I were to go like that, it's much easier to find the 5s. And so making sure that in your visualization that the data actually pops off the page, that makes it very quick and easy for the viewer to see what you're trying to show. So which of those is darker? Which of those chess pieces is dark? Would you believe me if I told you they were exactly the same? It's actually about what's around it. So when you're putting together your visual, think about what's next to it so that the contrast makes it pop off the page. Because if I show you it like that, you can see that the chess pieces are absolutely identical. If I go back to it now, you can see quite clearly that because of the background, they look like the top one looks like it's lighter and the bottom one looks like it's darker. So I think that's quite interesting. So the human visual system is a pattern seeker. So there are rules that we need to follow. So if we just need to make sure that we make it easy for the eye to interpret and to find the information and to get your message across in your infographic. Something that you really need to be aware of in your infographic is the golden triangle. And that's something that Google has discovered. And it works for absolutely anything. It works for a financial model even, or for a chart or for a dashboard, but particularly with a visual. When you're looking at a square, the most important real estate, your key message, the thing that you want to get across will always be in the top left-hand corner. So beware of the golden triangle. What's there. So think about where you place something on the page as to how much attention it will get. Consider the data to ink ratio. We need to show, so think about what's on the page, whereas, with extra clutter behind it. So for example, with having, dark background, extra lines, making your visual clear and crisp with a high data ink ratio will just mean that your message gets out. And infographics can be really bad for this. I often find people put a lot of patterns behind it because they want it to look, eye-catching. They want it to look good. You want to make your infographic look nice. And so you might put, an image of bricks or tiles or patterns in the background. And that just, it creates visual disturbance and noise, and it just creates clutter, and it means that your message is it's much more difficult to get your message across. So that's pretty much it for what I wanted to cover from you today. We're going to take some questions very soon, but very, very quickly, I'll just go over the different topics that we're going to cover in the full online course, the very first webinar is going to start next Thursday. So we're going to talk about Introduction to Infographics next Thursday. That's the topic that we'll be covering. So we'll be talking about things like, business intelligence, big data and how infographics fits into big data, that sort of thing. In module 2, we'll be talking more about the technical Excel skills. We'll be discussing things like, pivot tables, how to grab the data, a bit of an overview, some of this linking stuff that we did, using the form, what formulas you would use, things like today formulas, that sort of thing, as well as an introduction to some of the tools like Power Query and Power Pivot. We'll give you other resources. We're not going to go through all of those in a huge amount of detail, but just to make you aware of the different tools that you can use in Excel for creating infographics. In module 3, we're going to talk about more about the data visualization, more about colors, principles of visual perception, alignment, that sort of thing. And then lastly, we are going to build our own infographic. So we'll start from beginning to end and create our own infographic. We'll give you an example or data to work with, or you can use your own. If you have, I'm sure you guys have got an idea for an infographic that you want to create for your work or for your own personal use. So you'll be able to create yours and you submit that. We'll take a look at it and you'll get a certificate at the end. So the whole course should take about 6 weeks to get through. If you fall behind, of course, you can always catch up with watching the videos later. Are you there, Susan? I don't know whether we've got any of those places left. So if you wanted to sign up for it, hello.
Yeah, you guys are action takers. I'm pretty impressed. There are 8 spots left.
Oh, wow. Cool. All right. Great.
So if you are, and I've noticed that a couple of people have signed up, but they haven't actually finalised the purchase yet. So that does actually count as well. So if you are keen to sign up, I'd recommend jumping in right now, especially for that price.
Okay, great. All right, so there's a few spots left, and really looking forward to it. So that's pretty much it. I'll take any questions. Have we got questions, Susan? Is there anything we haven't? Yeah,
I think we pretty much answered everything during the webinar. Did anybody else have any questions at all?
All right. Well, just drop us a line if there is anything. We're almost coming up to an hour now, so we've just got a couple of minutes left if there's anything any particular questions anybody had. Otherwise, I will let you get back to your day. I've had lots of fun with you, and I'm really looking forward to our next one next Thursday. Where can someone find 3D people icons? What do you mean people? 3D. A lot of those sites that I gave you have got lots of icons and things. That you can, just have a look through the list of sites that I gave you, and I'll send through a list of those sites as well. The example infographic, that's at smallman.com. There's an infographic. There's a whole section. There's something like there's tons and tons of them there, so you can download them and have a look at those. And we'll be providing more templates and images that you can use throughout the course as well. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm going to sign off now, guys, and please drop through any emails at info@plumsolutions.com.au if you have any questions. Thanks so much. Have a great day.